Tonight, the U.S. launched another round of attacks on Iran. In a statement, the military said these were, quote, self-defense strikes in response to Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. And yet, earlier today, Trump said that he was going to hit Iran hard because the country is taking too long to make a peace deal. That comes after the U.S. launched strikes on Iran just yesterday in response to the downing of an American helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, on Wall Street, the Dow lost more than 900 points, 900. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 also lost more than 1.5% for the day, in part because of Trump's comments. And speaking of the economy, today, Trump was asked about the new inflation report that shows inflation is now the worst it's been in 3 years. Listen to what he had to say.
Are you concerned, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning? Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers were great.
You
know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. We've been taking out millions of barrels of oil. Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now.
That sound you hear is keyboards clacking as the ads are being made for Democrats. Just to make sure you heard that, let's reiterate it. That was Donald Trump, your president, saying he loves the inflation. And as far as his new announcement that we've taken millions of barrels of oil out of Iran secretly without Iran's knowledge, Trump's Energy Secretary Chris Wright was asked about it. In a congressional hearing, he said he was not aware of it. With that, let's bring in our nightcap. David Rode, MS Now, Senior National Security Reporter. Michael Schnell, Congressional Reporter for MS Now. Sabrina Siddiqui, National Politics Reporter for The Wall Street Journal. Joel Payne, Democratic Strategist and Chief Communications Officer for Move On. He was a senior aide for Hillary for America and Press Secretary for former Senator Harry Reid. And Andrea Flores, former DHS official and White House advisor. David, I want to start with you. What do we know about these new targets of these American strikes?
It's not clear yet. They seem to be focused more on southern Iran. I guess the most important thing is that there's no indication that President Trump has started having U.S. forces attack power plants and bridges. That was a threat that we all heard nearly 2 months ago with this, when the ceasefire was announced, that was going to be the sort of punishing blow that was going to, force capitulation by the Iranians. But we are in a new dynamic. The President Trump had a call earlier tonight with a Fox News reporter, and he said that if, there were the bombings tonight, but he said if Iran does not capitulate and sign this current draft agreement with the terms the Americans want, there will be more bombing tomorrow night. So we could be back in a full-blown war very soon if we aren't already.
In war, you make a decision, but then your enemy has a choice and also has a say. How has Iran responded here?
They fired back, and this is what we've seen throughout this war, that Iran doesn't back down. So tonight they fired missiles at Kuwait, definitely, and I believe Bahrain as well, and they've done this repeatedly. So my view of what's happened, the president told the Fox News reporter that 59 Tomahawk missiles were fired. There were also some American jets that dropped bombs on Iran. My guess is I don't think tonight's strikes are enough to force the Iranian regime to capitulate. They were hit harder by the U.S. earlier in this war, so we could have more American bombing on Thursday night. And the flaw in the American strategy could be this belief from the beginning that airstrikes alone are enough to get the Iranian regime to capitulate. It's very clear at this point that the United States is not going to launch a ground invasion of Iran. I'm not saying they should, but the fatal error possibly in this war could be, again, this belief that airstrikes alone will cause the Iranians to capitulate. I don't think they will after tonight's strikes.
Andrea, let's bring you in here. One of the things that I've heard from White House officials, you've probably heard the same thing, Sabrina, is that the reason that Trump does these kinds of things is to get folks back to the table faster. But I talked to some of our allies in the region, some people who are experts on this. They say actually it just hardens both sides from actually coming back to the table. Your thoughts?
I mean, I don't think there's any strategy really behind what he's doing because, we all...
He's not playing 4D chess?
No, he's not. And he thought that he could kind of be in and out of this conflict quickly. It's become a bigger distraction, having more impact than he wanted it to. And I don't see any sort of sophisticated negotiation happening. And I just think that he's playing with fire and that more Americans are either going to lose their lives in the conflict or everyone this summer will feel the impacts economically of this conflict. And he betrays his base because he was never supposed to do this. And he also is betraying, Americans in every way that he was going to lower the cost of living. It's so unnecessary and embarrassing for the country.
Sabrina, this is the man who co-wrote The Art of the Deal, and yet still no deal. Just before the strikes, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, said, quote, "If we need to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate with bombs." But that's exactly what led to the stalemate that we're in right now. What are folks in the White House saying about the strategy here? Is there a strategy, or is this whatever Trump is feeling at that time?
Well, what I'm hearing from sources in the White House is similar to what you said. They're kind of trying to frame this as this coercive tactic to try and draw out some kind of concessions from Iran at the negotiating table. But that doesn't change the fact that for weeks now, we keep hearing President Trump and others in his administration say, we're getting closer to the deal, we're getting closer to the deal. But the same fundamental sticking points remain around Iran's nuclear ambitions, from Tehran's perspective, that they want the U.S. to release frozen Iranian assets, and the president has said he's not willing to do that until a later stage in time. So it comes back to this idea that the president went into this war with shifting priorities and objectives, an unclear end game. And, now I think the moves are being driven more by the domestic political pressure here at home because this is an unpopular war that is not supported by a majority of the American people. It's fracturing his coalition, and it's had this impact on gas prices at a time when Republicans are already vulnerable on cost of living in November. So I think they're trying to do something, but it's just not clear that there is any coherent strategy.
So let's get into the politics of this, because gas prices are high. They've lowered a little bit, but they're still extremely high. Inflation is now high because of this war. Trump is escalating, it appears. You heard what David said. It's possible there could be more attacks tomorrow. How aggressive do you expect Democrats to be? And I said, we should be hearing the ad makers make the ads. How aggressive are Democrats going to be on this?
I mean, I'm sure they'll be aggressive, but you don't have to be that aggressive when all they got to do is walk out of their door, walk down the street, try to buy some groceries, see that it cost them 2x what it might have cost them this time last year. Go drive down the street, try to get to work, see that their gas prices that were $1 cheaper 6 months ago or $1 more expensive now. I mean, the Democrats certainly will do the work to amplify that, but you don't really have to do that much work. The thing I would add is, listen, it's very clear Donald Trump is pot committed on this strategy, and he seems to be checked out of any accountability for his actions. The people who should be concerned are the folks who should have known the entire time that their political fortunes were completely meaningless to Donald Trump. It's Susan Collins. It's John Husted in Ohio. It's Dan Sullivan. It's folks on the ballot all up and down, all throughout the country who have an R next to their name, who have to understand that Donald Trump does not actually care what his actions do to impact their political fortunes. Those folks actually have this terrible choice because they can't say, hey, I'm gonna run against Donald Trump. He doesn't allow them to run against him. And if he runs with Donald Trump, if you run with Trump and the Trump agenda, you have to take accountability for everything. This war, the bad decisions, the bad priorities. It's a bad place to be. I wish I could say I feel bad for him. I don't.
I mean, one of the things that I've been saying is that Donald Trump cares about the control of the Republican Party. It doesn't seem that he cares about how much power they end up actually having. David, I won't bring in the politics of this, but Trump's comment about getting all of this oil out of Iran, a senior military official told the New York Times he was referring to a widely reported U.S. program to help commercial ships get out of the Strait. If that's the case, why is he talking about it like this? As if there's some secret mission that Iran didn't know about. None of you amazing reporters who cover this didn't know about it either. What is he talking about?
It's been reported before, and I think it was a talking point. The president's trying to spin the situation and declare a success where it doesn't really exist. He talked about millions and millions of barrels of oil. One of the accounts and this was all a social media post he put out, it talked about 200 tankers getting through, and he said it was in part of this, covert effort last month. We don't know when that would be. So that's several weeks, though. Getting 200 tankers through the strait is actually still a failure. There was 130 tankers per day before this war started. So getting 200 tankers through in several weeks is not easing this massive global energy crisis. And just on one level, this is the United States military. We are a superpower. Right. And the president of the United States is bragging about how in the dark, the American Navy is helping tankers sneak through the Strait of Hormuz and hide from the Iranian Navy that they claim is at the bottom of the ocean. It's astonishing. Like, no one believed on February 27th, before this war started, that that's what would be happening. The American Navy would be trying to sneak ships out of the Strait of Hormuz so they wouldn't be seen by the Iranians. So it's amazing what's happened. And I don't see the Iranians capitulating anytime soon.